Welcome to the Live to Fish podcast. I'm Daniel Notariani, and I'm happy to have you join us as we sit down with a good friend of mine, Brent Bochek. Brent is the host of Setting the Hook with Brent Bochek. He's most known as a musky guy and one of the only speakers to appear 5 years in a row at the Musky Odyssey. Brent runs a charter boat on Lake Ontario for salmon and trout, and he guides musky in the Kawarthas. We talk about catching your first musky, about salmon charters, the perils and joys of TV shows, and the importance of timing and good friends. Let's jump right into the conversation. How's it going, Brent?
It's going great, Dan. How are you today?
Not bad. Thanks for doing this.
Well, you know what? We got a windy, rainy day, so I actually have time.
Yeah, I something that I've had a hard time with getting this podcast started was getting people who had any time, because I decided to start it like right in the middle of fishing season.
Yep.
Like most things I do in life, timing is always right on.
Timing's everything.
Yeah, timing's everything, and I got none of it. So,
yeah. Well, I was supposed to be on the water today, but I had to cancel my trip because of the weather. So, So here we are. We're making use of this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you're supposed to be on the water. So what have you been doing on the water?
Guiding salmon and trout. Charter boat out in Lake Ontario out of Port Dalhousie. Board Setting the Hook.
And how's the season been going so far?
It's been going really good. We've had good numbers of fish, and we've had some pretty big fish this year. Our biggest being on my boat scale, 30.36 pounds. 40 inches long by 26-inch girth.
What was it?
Chinook. Big Chinook.
Yeah,
big Chinook.
How long have you been doing the guiding thing now?
I think I did some years ago.
Let's talk the salmon charter.
Yeah. So, I did a bit of guiding up in the Kawarthas years ago out of my 14-foot boat, just one or two people. Now, the salmon stuff I've been doing since 2010.
Okay. So it'll be about 13 years.
Yeah. It doesn't seem that long, but so.
I want to make a lot of jokes because I don't know if people know like our relationship. Like I filmed and produced your show, so we've gotten pretty close over the last couple of years. So
yeah, we spent a lot of time together on the road.
A lot of hotel rooms together, and I think we tend to make fun of each other a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And, we have a good time.
So people might get the wrong impression when we start poking fun at each other.
Chirping each other?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not only have we spent a lot of time on the road together, but you've also spent a lot of time on the road going back and forth to shoots because you forgot something.
Yeah. I did 2 round trips to Ottawa in less than 24 hours once. We got all the way up there and filming with the Musky Factory and putting my camera together and realized I forgot all my lenses at home.
Yeah. Well, the good news is you realized it the night before.
Yeah. So I basically just drove home, took a 2-hour nap, and
drove back in the morning.
Started filming, and thankfully it was musky fishing with you, so there weren't a lot of fish caught.
Wow,
I had a lot of time to nap.
If people aren't musky fishermen, we call them a fish of 10,000 casts.
Yeah.
Or it used to be 100 hours of fishing before back in the day. But nowadays, with all our technology and advancements, of course, you can look at multi-fish days, but it's not like you're bass fishing where you're expecting, or walleye fishing, or salmon fishing for that matter, where you're expecting to catch a number of fish.
Right.
Musky fishing, one fish can be a great day. Yeah. Especially if it's the right one.
Right. So you're guiding for salmon and trout, but I think you're generally regarded as a musky guy.
Yeah, musky is really where my passion is.
Yeah.
Down in this area here in the Niagara Peninsula, we do have musky fishing. We do have the Niagara River. There's musky on Lake Erie and stuff. And even in Lake Ontario, but it's not really a place where you can, if you're going to make a living fishing here, it's either going to be salmon and trout on Lake Ontario or walleye on Lake Erie. As where we're sitting in my place right now, we're just minutes from Lake Erie. So,
what was the draw for you with musky? Why musky?
I think it was the elusiveness.
Okay.
Growing up as a kid, there's always an aura around muskies. There's something special about them. Even like growing up, my dad, I had 2 sisters and myself. If we caught a first muskie, he'd give us $1. It was kind of the deal, right? So it was a big deal to get that $1 for the very first muskie.
Well, especially way back then.
Yeah. It was probably worth about $10 now.
Yeah.
But it was, even the cottage we ended up in the Kawartha Lakes, there was, guys would write on the wall what fish they caught. And I was like, the guy got 5 walleye or whatever, and see a few muskies on there, right? It wasn't like it was musky on there. Probably they shouldn't have been writing on the walls, but once one guy did it, a whole bunch of people started doing it. And I was kind of sad when we went up there the one year and they paneled over it because there's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to go in there now and pull that paneling down and take a look at all the old fish that were caught, the dates and everything else. It was pretty cool as a kid seeing that. And there's always something about, even the one Canadian Tire in Finland Falls, you go in there, they had one fish mount. It was a musky. I'm not even sure how big it was now, but it was up on the wall and it was big. You didn't see bass up on the wall. You didn't see walleye on the wall or anything else. There was a musky there. And there's just something about it that really piqued my interest. It's musky fishing is a real passion, that's for sure.
Yeah, it gets under your skin a bit, right?
Oh yeah, it could. You can go from 0 to 0 pretty quick musky fishing, or any type of fishing really. Whether you're fishing tournaments or guiding or charter boating, I always say you're only as good as your last trip. Yeah. And my last trip was pretty good. We'll see what happens Thursday morning because I got 2 trips tomorrow.
Where did you start with the musky? Like, do you remember where it really took hold of your?
In the Kawartha Lakes. I was 14 years old. Mm-hmm. It's funny. I'm going to tell the story, but I'm going to say something just before that. When I do fishing seminars, I'll ask people to show of hands. How many people remember the first bass? A couple people might put their hand up. How many people remember the first walleye? A couple people might. How many people remember the first muskie? Everybody that's caught a muskie puts their hand up. They all remember the first one. So I was 14 years old fishing with a friend of mine, Kevin Hikita, who was the goalie on my hockey team at the time. His parents were up in the Kawarthas with us. It wasn't in season. We were walleye fishing. But I hooked into probably about a 36-inch muskie, landed it, got the hooks out and released it. No cell phones or anything back in the day. Now, of course, if you catch a fish out of season, you shouldn't be taking a picture of it anyways. It's immediate release, right? There's no photo evidence of that fish, but it's certainly burned in my memory. I can remember exactly where it was, the bait and everything, and it was pretty exciting to catch that first fish. And then, a few years later, when I was 18, my dad and I went up muskie fishing in the Kawarthas for the opener, and back then the legal size limit was 28 inches. Well, I just happened to catch 3 fish that day that were 28 inches. So if I got 3 fish that were 28 inches now, I'd rather have them shake off at the side of the boat or not even hit it really. But it was pretty exciting that first time muskie fishing, actually catch 3 fish in one day, and I'll be legal size limit at the time. And we released them all then. Looking back, I think they're successfully released, but we have a lot more education now on handling fish and everything else. And it's that's probably my, actually I can remember my first 5 muskie that I caught. And as I said, you don't probably remember your first 5 bass you caught. Maybe the first one, but not your first 5.
Yeah, I remember the first couple because the first one was the first one, a couple stories around it. But Yeah, I've been to a few of those seminars where you do that, and I'm always eating in the back, jumping around when you're talking about every species of fish, trying to distract you as much as I can.
Well, I got the mic in my hand, so you got to be careful, right? Yeah, I don't get distracted at them very often. So, but you've seen it, right? How many people really put their hands up for the first bass or walleye?
Very few. And most people that do are actually younger. But
right,
I want to touch on something you said about like the education and handling and successful release. I have to say, maybe fly guys or trout guys might be as close, but I don't think there's any like niche market like musky anglers that are as into the science of the catch and the release and handling them properly.
Especially the handling,
yeah. Yeah, as musky guys are, which is great. Like it's awesome to see anglers looking at science-based facts.
Right. I hate when I see guys online that hold a fish and there might be a new angler or they're not experienced or they don't have the education, right? And they have they're excited they caught a muskie. Mm-hmm. And they should be excited and great for them. And they don't hold it the way some people think they should. Mm-hmm. And they get chastised for it.
Yeah.
And that kind of bothers me. I usually don't chirp in on something like that. The guy should be happy. He caught the fish.
Yeah.
He still released it.
Yeah.
But instead of people online going after the guy, just be nice about it. Say, hey, great fish. Next time, if you do this, it'll be better for the fish. Proper handling techniques. Point out a couple of things instead of saying, oh, that's a dead fish, or oh, how'd that one taste? Or snide comments like that.
Yeah.
I kind of, when I first started musky fishing, I didn't know how to handle them properly. Mm-hmm. We netted them, brought them in the boat, onto the bottom of the floor, got the hooks out. Now, we try to leave the net in the water, cut the hooks out or get the hooks out, whatever you have to do, out for a quick photo and back in. But that came with experience.
Yeah.
Through education over the years. And that's why we have, like with Muskies Canada, we have the Odyssey. Yes, a lot of it's about the custom baits and stuff like that, but it's also really about the education. Not only how to catch the fish, but how to handle them once you do, how to land them, how to get the hooks out properly, even how to take a proper photo, and then how to release them properly. It's more than just going out and catching a fish.
Yeah, and I think just to double back when you're talking about people land-basting people on social media, that really pushes people away from the sport in general, which is not good it's not good for the fish, it's not good for the sport. And I think the more people that care about the fish and the sport, the more people are going to care to keep that fish and that sport and that fishery alive, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because the guy who's, as I said, it's his first muskie.
Yep.
He's never handled one before. He's never been educated on it. How are you going to learn?
You're not, especially if you get discouraged right off the bat, you're not going to post it, and then you're not going to learn, and you're going to do more damage to the fishery than anything.
Or you're not going to follow certain groups, because you've been, somebody blasted you on there. You're not going to follow that group, and there's a great way to learn is on social media. But people need to treat people with respect on there and educate instead of blasting them.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a lot easier to be a jerk online because you're not saying it face to face to that person, but got to really I can't tell you how. I've sent you screenshots of posts that I wanted to make.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? Like, it's not right for social because people aren't going to get the full concept of it, or they don't know me, or they don't, it's something I might say to you face to face, but it's probably not appropriate for the masses to hear.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, people are a lot braver when they're not going to lose a couple of teeth either, right?
Didn't want to say that, but yeah, that's pretty much
it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. So, how long have you been with Muskies Canada?
Since 1990.
You had any other role with them? I should have known this before I came.
I've been the chapter chairman in Hamilton. With the Hamilton chapter. I've had a couple different positions on the executive there. Years ago, I was on the national executive. I can't even remember what my job was there now, or my position, because it was back in, say, the 90s.
Okay.
Currently, I'm the chairman of the Hamilton chapter again.
Oh, when did that happen?
Last December.
Okay.
So just past year.
Nice. I didn't know that. I didn't know you were.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I want to do a better job with it than what I've been doing. I just don't have the time to put into it the way I should. It's hard to get volunteers. And that's another thing with groups, whether it's a trout fishing group, a muskies group, kind of say it's Muskies Canada, one of the bass federations or whatever. People forget that it's just a fishing club and everybody's a volunteer. Unfortunately, politics get involved in things and people's egos get involved. But at the end of the day, the guy who's running it or who's volunteering his time, people forget he's not getting paid for it. It's time away from his family, maybe taking time away from his job even, but most importantly, time away from your family doing volunteering in that. And people forget that it's, as I said, it's a volunteer. People need to work together on some of this stuff instead of letting egos get in the way and butt heads. I've seen that a lot. Yeah.
They're doing this because they're passionate about the sport and want to share the sport. I think quite a few years back, these groups were about sharing and learning. And, the passion for the sport and the fish is infectious. And I think hunters do it really well in the sense of you get really into targeting a specific fish or hunting a specific way. And then you kind of go overboard about protecting them to make sure there's more of them to keep them around. But I think on the fishing side, a little bit of that's lost in the group, in the club scene, and any of that scene where it's about protecting them to make sure they're still around so we can still target them. And then another side to that is with the fly club I'm part of, we haven't had any new members. I'm the youngest member in the fly club.
You're not that young.
I'm not that young. I'm not. The bass club's not as bad, but I think even I don't think we've had any. We had an insurgence of high school anglers at one point, but now they're all out of college.
Right.
We haven't had any new ones come in since, and I don't know if that's because they just don't want to come into these groups because they see the politics, or if they're just not interested in volunteering in this way anymore. And there's other ways to do this.
Yeah. Well, I think also in today's world, you have a lot of, people on their phones and their computers and other stuff going on. There's a lot more going on in the world right now than there was when I was a kid, for example, right? Mm-hmm. All we did when I was a kid growing up was play road hockey. I played hockey, of course, and played road hockey when I wasn't on the ice. That's all we ever seemed to do. I have kids across the road here. They're outside playing all the time. But if you drive around the neighborhood, there's not a ton of kids outside playing now.
No.
Fortunately, we had during the Mudcat Festival here in Dunnville, they have a kids fishing derby. Mm-hmm. And we had over 100 kids out for it.
That's awesome.
And it was great. They're all sitting there on the bank fishing with worms, or some kids had corn or whatever, catching carp and catfish and bluegills and all kinds of stuff. So the tackle shop in town here got involved in it, and we volunteered for it. We did the weigh-in for it.
We as in
Well, I did the.
Okay.
I emceed the. Oh, Heather was there as well.
Okay.
But I
fish
did
envy setting the hook.
Yeah. We did the official weigh-in for it and did the announcing, emceed it, I guess you'd say. And it was great to get involved with it, but it was also great just to see how many kids are actually out there fishing that day. Some kids showed up; they had good equipment. Some kids, didn't have as good as equipment. We helped them out, tied some stuff up for them. And another fellow in the area who charters out in Lake Erie here, Adam Avery, he actually brought some of his own. He lives across the road. He came across with some of his own fishing rods and stuff to get the kids to use, to lend to them.
That's awesome. I think it's so important to get youth involved in the sports and the outdoors, because if they have a passion for it, they're going to want to preserve it. And
absolutely.
The way things are going, it might not be around for very long. So it's really important to get people to fall in love with it. And
Yeah, I even see with our Musky Canada group, we have a really wide range of age members. Our members of varying ages in our Hamilton chapter. I can't speak for the other chapters, but in Hamilton, we got guys that are in their early 20s and guys who have been retired for quite a while.
Oh, that's
so it's great to see, because you got these experienced guys passing on that stuff to the young, energetic guys who are learning, and they're the ones that are going to carry on with the conservation and with the club itself.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
So you touched on Dunville and the cats and all that, and so you've been out here now. Is it 3 years now? You've been
just over 2 years, I think. Yeah, 2 years back in July.
Since you've been out here, you've been starting to target those cats more and more. And
you know what? The Grand River, it's a bit of a. I almost hesitate to say this out loud, but it's a bit of a hidden gem, really.
No, it's a garbage fishery.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
It's terrible. Don't come out here. Don't come fishing. But no, seriously, it's a phenomenal fishery. We actually got onto a pattern of channel cat fishing for walleye, pulling worm harnesses at 0.9 mile an hour. 3 days in a row, we came over this hump around 8:30. We'd fish this hump for about half an hour, and the bite would last, because the bite lasts about a half an hour. And we got into channel cats that every night, right on that hump. Wouldn't get them before 8:30. This is a few weeks back. And as soon as 8:30 came along, those fish were on that hump. And we were getting channel cat between 10 and 15 pounds on walleye gear, like just spinning rods, right? And there's just so much fun. There's so much fun.
Mentioning that they're coming up at 8:30 makes me think, how long did that 8:30 bite last?
About a half an hour.
No. How many days?
Well, we got them 3 days in a row like that. And then I wasn't out there for a bit.
Okay.
I haven't been on it since, really.
All right. So I'm curious if that was like a sole lunar table thing.
I'd have to look back to check that out, but I even noticed like walleye fishing in the Kawarthas, at a certain time, fish will move up onto a hump to feed or whatever. So you'll get those windows. But it was very interesting. We caught walleye before that. First night, it came across that hump, boom, got a fish. Came back across it, boom, got a fish. Like we just started working it, but those fish weren't there. Well, they may have been there, but they weren't active until. It's just like as soon as 8:30 come along, the third night, I said to my buddy Craig, I said 8:30, we're getting on that hump. Come across that hump, boom, right at 8:30, we hook up.
So, how do you end up with a TV show?
Well, it's something that I don't know. So, how would I end up with it? Years ago, I was very fortunate. I fished. There's a fellow named Larry Schoenberg. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He had a show out in the West Coast in the States, I think Washington State. And he came down to the Kawartha Lakes. He's fishing with Paul Gasparino, who used to be the president of Musky Canada for years. And I was in the camera boat. And it was pretty cool. I wasn't actually on film for that, but we were helping out. I was in the boat. I was in the camera boat. I was fishing the whole time. Larry and Paul were in Paul's boat, and the cameras were on them. It's kind of cool to see that, being involved with that. Very fortunate I got to fish with Bob Zumi years ago. We tried to do a muskie show on the Upper Niagara River in Buffalo Harbor. Of course, that day we didn't get a muskie. Fish at 10,000 casts or 100 hours of fishing, right?
A muskie show in Buffalo Harbor sounds like torture.
Well, it's a bit of a story behind it, but that day we did get a walleye over 10 pounds, which is pretty cool. The next time I was out on the harbor, we got 6 fish that day, the biggest being about 35 pounds. So timing's everything. And just something I like the education part. Like I like educating. I like doing seminars and stuff like that. And I talked to the cable companies around here about getting a show going. And we actually had a deal to do the show with them before we actually had a camera guy or an editor.
Yeah.
So we weren't even sure how we were going to do that. You know what? If you don't take a chance, you'll never accomplish anything if you don't take a chance.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to dive in feet first. Or head first, I guess. And once you make that commitment, you're gonna have to figure it out. It was a lot of fun. Fortunately, we talking to you at the show.
That's how we got connected at the boat show.
Yeah.
Well,
we knew each other for years before that, but that's how we were talking about it. And you said, "Oh, if you want some help with that, let me know."
Yeah.
And I don't know if you knew what you're getting into with that, but
I had a good idea what I was getting into. But yeah. The first year was great, and then we kind of ran into
logistics.
Life.
Well, you were in Florida quite a bit.
Yeah. I was in Florida. Like, my life changed. Your life changed,
and I had stuff going on here. It made it a little more difficult, especially when we're fishing on a Wednesday and they need the final product by Friday morning. By Friday morning.
Yeah. Well, we got pretty lucky on a couple of those shows.
Yes. Yeah. Fished with Richard Brower, a good friend of ours.
Yeah.
We fished with him a couple of times, and actually the first show we did was Richard. You weren't even ready with the cameras yet. We had fish on fishing. We were out in my boat salmon fishing on Lake Ontario. If every day could be like that when you're doing a TV show, it'd be easy.
Wouldn't be a problem at all.
It'd be easy. We got a fish right away. We lost a cannonball on the downrigger, so we're one rigger short. And we got a lot of fish that day, and we had some. We had a double header at one time.
Yeah. Well, I still remember trying to set up, and I hear fish, and I'm like, "You guys are fishing already?" Like.
That's probably the hardest part for me when we go out to film is like, okay, I grab a rod, I'm ready to go, and you're like, don't cast yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, why not? Like, what's it? They're like, I'm not ready. I'm not rolling. There's no use catching a fish without the film rolling.
Yeah.
Kind of like when we went ice fishing with Kellum Johnson.
Yeah.
He took me out, we set the hut up and that, and I'm sitting there, and he came back in to get you.
Kellum had to portage us back and forth.
Yeah.
So,
snow machine, and you can't take 3 people on it, obviously, right? So we set the hut up, got the heater going. I'm all comfortable in there, and I'm sending you pictures of a whitefish as you're coming out of the machine.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there, I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, well, that just cursed the show. So I don't remember. You got one on camera?
I think we got 3 in total on camera.
Yeah, I know Callum got 2.
He got 2, and I got 1 on camera.
All right. Yeah. I was halfway between like, okay, well, this is going to be great because if he already has one, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing out there. And then the rest of the day is going to be easy.
I have a little bit of a knowledge what I'm doing when I'm fishing, but when it comes to fishing for whitefish or whatever, I don't think I've really done that.
Callum has a very specific way of doing things, and that has a lot to do with where he sets up, how he sets up, and his rigs.
Yeah.
I remember every time he'd bring his fish out of the water, he'd cover his bait, so I couldn't get it on camera. And I'm like, all right,
okay,
point taken.
It's kind of like fish, kind of like sometimes when we were musky fishing with certain people, and they say, "Oh, that nice fish, but we don't want that in the background."
Yeah, well,
I understand. I understand it. I understand.
I totally get it. Like spot burning is a big problem, especially when you're close to heavily populated areas. I can't pronounce that word. I'm just going to change what I'm going to say. Heavily populated areas.
Yeah. Metropolitan?
Large metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
Growing up as a steelheader based out of Toronto, like, remember posting a picture of a fish, and if you post it the day you caught it, the next day, the next 3 days, the next 4 days, if someone recognized that spot, the spot was burnt. It was full of people. It was shoulder to shoulder. It was just a disaster. So now a lot of my friends that are still doing the rivers heavily or exclusively will wait, and one of my buddies is posting pictures of steelhead with snow in the background, and people are like, "Oh, there's fish in the Wilmot," and you're like, "No,
there's snow.
There's no snow, man." Like, yeah. So
there's a spot in the Kawarthas where a friend of mine, we used to call it the White Cottage, and I've had people say, "Oh, I know where that White Cottage is. I seen it in the photo." Well, you know what? There's absolutely no White Cottage in that area at all, but we call it the White Cottage
because
it's just the name we gave it, the White Cottage. And we can talk about it, have a full conversation. Nobody knows what we're talking about. It's just a little thing we've got, like Peacock Point.
Yeah.
Well, there's no Peacock Point on that lake, but we just make up our own. Or one of the things we call it by Shania Twain's Cottage. There's a big cottage on the lake. We call it Shania Twain's Cottage. I don't know why, but we had our own language for the area. We could talk in front of about 20 people at a Muskies Canada meeting, where you're supposed to be sharing information and helping educate, but nobody would know what we were talking about.
There's a difference between sharing. There's a difference between sharing information and giving away spots. Like a big part of fishing and learning about fishing is learning about why a spot is effective.
Yep.
And I learned this really early on fishing with Chonger. When I joined the bass clubs, it was angler, co-angler, and there was a draw event. So I drew Dave for a tournament on Rice Lake, which at the time was one of his top lakes. Mm-hmm. We went to a spot, and as we're pulling up to the spot, he looks at me and he goes, so there's a big problem with co-anglers burning or stealing boaters' spots.
Right.
And I just want to make sure you understand. And I kind of looked at him, I'm like, honestly, I have no idea where we are. I don't have GPS on my phone. I don't think I could ever get back here by myself because we came in here at like 60 miles an hour. I just want to know why this spot's important. He goes, that's the right thing to say. And he just like spent the rest of the time drilling in
right.
Like, why this spot works. Like water depth, water color, well, you know, mm-hmm. what's around it, structure, stuff like that.
Right.
So if you learn that, I think you'll learn how to find the fish much, much more efficiently than
for sure.
Just knowing, hey, off that point with that cottage and
right.
Just fish there. And it's like,
well, it's even like say you're walleye fishing, for example, and you're fishing a hump. Well, wind will, you know, I could say to you, Dan, go fish that hump there. There's walleye there in the evening. Mm-hmm. But if you don't realize which way the wind's going and how those fish will position on that hump, well, I could be on one side, you could be on the other side, and one of us will catch fish and the other won't. Mm-hmm. Just depending how they set up, whether it's current or wind or whatever. So you're right. It's one thing about a spot, but you have to know how to fish the spot as well.
Yeah, or how to replicate, or how to find other spots like that. Right. Because if all you know is that point off that cottage, and there's 3 boats on that spot, you can't pull up to that spot.
No.
I mean, you could, but it's not.
Yeah, go find your own spot.
But you know, like knowing why that spot's efficient, or why that spot's productive, will help you find other spots like it. And
There's a spot in one of the lakes I fish. It's funny. I don't see a lot of musky guys fishing windswept points for whatever reason. There's one point in particular. If the wind's blowing good on it, I'll fish it. If there's no wind, I'm not even going to bother with it. Mm-hmm. But I think what happens when it's windy, the crayfish and everything get kind of tossed around. Bait in there gets tossed around. Panfish like bluegills and rock bass will come in to feed, and smallmouth or whatever. Well, then your bigger predator's going to come in to feed too. But if it's windy, and plus also with that windy, a little bit less light penetration. I had a guy come up to me, and I'm very careful when I fish the spot, because if there's certain people around, I won't fish it. I'm talking about burning spots, right?
Yeah.
So I had a guy come up to me one day and goes, "Oh, I see you fishing that point over there earlier." I'm going, "Oh yeah." He goes, "You ever get any fish there?" I go, "Yeah, it's the odd one." He goes, "Yeah, but they're always small, aren't they?" I go, "Yeah." Meanwhile, the year before, in 2 days, I pulled 4 fish off that spot that were over 40 inches, like 40 to 45 inches, right? Yeah. 40 to 45 inches in huge fish, but in the Kawartha Lakes, those are pretty nice fish in the Kawarthas.
Yeah.
So I just, you're saying, well, I don't want to burn that spot, so I'm kind of take a look before I fish it sometimes. Mm-hmm. But also, you have to know when to fish it.
Right.
Yeah, you can fish that 10 days in a row and you won't see a fish on it. You get that one windy day and you're going to find fish on it.
Right.
Another thing about a spot like that I find is, and I'll tell clients when we go up on there when I'm guiding, if you're going to get a fish here, it's going to hit. It's not going to fall to the boat. Make a figure 8 every time. Always make that boat side maneuver when you're musky fishing, no matter what. But this is the kind of spot where they're up here for one reason, and that's to eat. Mm-hmm. They're not up here lounging around. We're getting tossed around here. So is that fish under the water. He's in here moving around looking to eat. So, and I've never had a follow on this spot in particular. I've never had a follow. The fish are up there. They're going to eat. So so pay attention.
So what do you think is that they eat as opposed to follow?
Because they're up there eating. They're up there feeding. They're not curious.
Okay.
They're up there looking to eat. That's the only reason they're there. They're not, as I said, they're not lounging there. They're not just sitting on the edge of a weed bed. Mm-hmm. If you're fishing a weed bed or whatever, fish sees your bait come out, he might, if he's not really aggressive, he might just come out and follow your bait, kind of curious. Yes, you can trick those fish into hitting. Or even if he is hungry or whatever, he might still follow your bait in. On a windswept point, those fish are up there for one reason, and that's to eat. So they're going to react pretty quick on your bait when they see it, if you get your cast in the right spot. Now, next time I fish that point, I'm going to get a follow. He's not going to eat, he's just going to follow. I just cursed myself, but that's okay.
That's kind of the way the fishing industry works, right? Like, I was joking about how I never catch any fish on the Credit River. I mean, it was almost like 30 years that I've been fishing the Credit River, at least the main branch, and I had not caught a single fish on it. And then I went out with this one guy and kind of joked about it again, and I'm like, I'm just coming out because this is where you want to fish. And I got like 3 browns in a row.
Oh, nice.
And I'm just like,
my first fish on the credit, I took a picture of it, and he goes, "You normally take pictures of fish that small?" I'm like,
So when you're saying the credit, you're not really talking like when guys are out to salmon fishing, you're talking trout fishing.
"No, all of it,
All of it? Everything?
all of it."
All of it?
From the mouth of the Credit River all the way up to the top of the Forks. The West Credit has actually been really good to me as far as brook trout go, from fishing like Forks to Credit brown trout to steelhead at the golf course to salmon, even at the fishing at the mouth. We were out one time.
It's been your nemesis.
It has. We were out there one time steelhead fishing, and we brought a friend who had never steelhead fished before. And 5 casts in, she gets one. And then my buddy and her kind of start trading off, and my float doesn't go down once. And he looks at me and goes, "What are you doing different?" And we switch rods for a second, and he's looking at my rod, and he goes, "Can I make a cast with that?" I'm like, yeah, go for it. So he casts, I cast. He gets a fish on my rod. He didn't change a single thing about my setup. And he gets the first trick with my rod, and I'm just like, "Can we go to Brawny now?" Like, we'll just go to another spot. And then we get to the other spot, and then we're all catching fish. 2 years ago, I was with Nico, and we were fly fishing for browns. And he gets a couple, and I finally get one on, and it was a big one. So he's coming over with the net, and he's going to net it. And as he's going to net it, he trips and he falls. And he goes down, and the fish goes underneath his arm, turns, and pops off. And he just looks at me, and I'm like, "It's better than I've ever done on the credit, so I'm happy so far."
Speaking of brown trout, last year fishing off Port Dalhousie. So say between, I'm docked at Port Dalhousie, so I fished mostly between, say, Jordan Harbor and the Niagara River. That whole stretch there, depending on where the fish are, what's going on. Last year, I don't think I caught one brown trout out on the lake itself. This year, I've got 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Like deep water fish?
Yep. Well, one was in the spring, so probably 30, 40 feet of water. And the other ones have been, say, over 75 feet anyways. No, over 75 feet of water, not 75 feet down.
Yeah. But all suspended chasing bait around.
Yep. Yeah, right in with the salmon. And
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why that happens.
I don't know if I've just got lucky to get 6 of them this year or what. But yeah, last year I don't think I got one, and this year we're up to 6 now. Because we got one yesterday.
I wonder if that has to do with like different year classes of fish, like better year classes.
Oh, they've been all different sizes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Anywhere from 3 pounds to about 12 pounds.
All right.
Yeah, it's always kind of cool, and I'm standing at the back of the boat waiting with the net, and I go, "Oh, that's a brown trout."
Yeah. Yeah, especially out there. They're cool looking creatures.
Yeah, they are. But they don't have the same colors as once they come into the rivers, of course.
Right. Yeah.
They're still a pretty cool looking fish.
Yeah. Since I've known you, I feel like the last couple of years you've been doing a lot more of that salmon trout trolling thing.
Yeah.
Is that just out of necessity because you're booking more? Or is that something that you're finding that you're kind of digging a little more?
Well, I really enjoy it, obviously. First of all, going fishing every day, or not every day, but to being a full-time charter guy in Lake Ontario is a lot better than going into a factory, let me tell you. Although, it's a lot less. Yeah, sure, you got your stresses, right? And you got a lot of expenses. Look at the price of gas right now. Insurance, docking fees, equipment. You're always losing something out there, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a lot nicer to be out on the lake all day. You have your stresses there and everything else. Even if the fishing's tough, it's fishing. So you're not every day you're going to be filling a cooler out there. That being said, we've done very well this year. But it's so much nicer than to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning than it is to get up at 5:30 or 6 and go to a factory. Get up at 4 and go to the lake. It's a
bad day on the water is better than a good day at work.
Well, it is work.
Yeah.
Anybody who thinks, it must be nice to go fishing every day. Well, yeah, it is, but there's a lot of it is a lot of work.
Well, part of being a good guide is kind of putting in the work to make sure that people that are coming out are enjoying it and want to come back out. Right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's number one, is that people have fun. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of people don't see is, they show up at the dock, they come out for their 6 hours fishing, and then they go home, or they go to the restaurant or whatever. If I'm on the water at 6 and I'm at home, because I do sleep on the boat some nights, I'm up at 4 o'clock, get there by 5, make sure, I start the engine, make sure everything's good. I may have been on the boat yesterday, but if I have any issues, I want to be able to hopefully fix them before people show up. Get the engines warmed up, just check everything over once or twice. And if people show up early, well, we leave early. Leave the dock early. Come back at noon, get cleaned up, grab something to eat, back out. If I have a double that day, back out at 2 till 8 or 2:30 till 8:30, depending on the time of year. And then you're not home till, say, 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Or if I have a trip the next morning, I stay on the boat. So you're looking at what's getting up at 4 and you're not home till 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's a pretty long day.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going into a factory to work, it's an 8-hour day. By the time you leave and get home, it's 10 and a half hours, maybe 10 hours.
Yeah.
So, you have a lot of long days. If it's a Saturday night and I got a trip Saturday afternoon and one Sunday morning, well, I'm not coming home. I'm going to sleep on the boat because it's 45 minutes to the marina, 45 minutes back, hour and a half on the road plus gas.
Yeah.
I could sleep that little bit of time instead.
An hour and a half's a lot when you're running these long days.
Yes. And then, my wife, Heather, well, we're not going out Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of sacrifices. Yes, everybody thinks it's great being a fishing guide or running a charter boat, and it is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. There's a lot of sacrifices guys make to do that. That's what people don't realize is all those extra sacrifices. I'm not complaining because I absolutely love doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky I have a very supportive wife who, I'm not going to say allows me to do it, but she actually encourages it, and she's very supportive. So it's, you have to have that whole team effort if you're going to be successful at this game.
Right. So you're talking about getting ready early in the morning just in case there's something that's going on.
Yep.
Something that sticks out this year that's like totally throwing you for a loop in the morning before a trip.
Nothing, fortunately. Because I was knock on wood. So I had, what's today? What is today? Tuesday? Yeah, today's Tuesday. So I was on the boat yesterday. I had a trip yesterday morning. I went and put gas in today. So, I started, even though I was running yesterday, I started up today, checked oil and everything else, make sure. And tomorrow morning I'll do the same thing before I head out. Haven't had any issues, but every time I'm on the boat, I always make sure, always check everything over. Mm-hmm. The biggest problem is in the morning when you get down there, even though I spray for them, is spiders.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The dock's terrible for spiders. Spider webs everywhere. You got to go down and
like webs or actual spiders in the boat?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
Actually, this morning, I went down there. As I said, put gas in this morning. Yeah, that's a real pain, let me tell you. The price of gas now.
Yeah, it's just getting better and better, isn't it?
Yeah. But I have a duck that sleeps on the swim platform quite often.
Okay.
Well, I get down to the boat this morning, and I look in, and there's a couple of, I have all my spoons across the back, or a bunch of spoons across the back hanging there. And there's a couple spoons on the floor. Like, oh, that's weird. Like, they weren't out when I cleaned up yesterday. I get back from a trip, I scrubbed the boat down and everything, right? And they weren't on the floor when I left yesterday. I'm thinking it was windy last night, but it's not in the marina. It's not going to be rocking the boat that much.
Yeah.
And then there's a big pile of duck crap in there. So a duck was actually sleeping inside my boat last night.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Now I know why.
Making himself at home.
Now I know why it's probably windy and he got out of the wind. I don't know. That's the only thing is in the morning sometimes you got to get rid of those spider webs. And even though I spray for them all the time, but.
With fire or?
With fire? No.
Yeah.
I should.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of spiders. It's funny, the other day I'm letting a line at one of my lead cords and I feel there's something tickling me on my arm. I was like, oh, another spider coming off the reel. But I try to get rid of all those before customers get on board.
Well, the last thing you need is like someone like me coming in, there's a spider and it just freaks me out and I jump, end up in the water when you're 2 miles offshore.
Yeah, I don't like spiders.
No. Or snakes?
I'd rather have spiders. I'd rather have spiders
than snakes. I agree.
I'd rather have spiders than snakes.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Mark. We're on the Chippewa there.
Yeah, he almost jumped right into the river there.
Yeah, I got snagged and we pulled the boat in to get my snag out. And I don't even know what kind of snake it was.
It was a water snake.
Water snake sitting in a tree.
Yeah, just hanging out.
So he goes to grab onto the tree and he put his hand about 6 inches from it.
Yeah. Thankfully, he was on the tail side, not the head side.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
as I'm filming him doing this, oh, jeez.
I thought he was joking around because I don't like snakes. And there was a freaking snake in the tree.
Yeah, you never know what you're gonna run into. There's been, I think if there was like a snake, it's just the way they slither. I can't handle it.
We don't even need to talk about it, really.
Yeah. Well, I'm just if there was ever one in the boat, I'd probably jump out. I'm not a fan.
No, me neither.
And I think it's just because most other animals, like even mice, kind of like get to me because they're so small, and it's like I don't want to hurt it, but I don't think I can deal without hurting it. If that makes any sense, like it's like the elephant and the mouse kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, we don't have to deal with mice on the boat.
Yeah.
Just spiders.
Yeah.
Just spiders. Although last year, Craig and I were up on the buddy Craig Battle and I up on the West Arm Lake Nipissing.
Mm-hmm.
And Craig, but it was in October, so we had a box of Halloween candy to have in the boat. And the last morning we wake up, there's all these empty wrappers everywhere. Raccoons got in there. Fortunately, they didn't do any damage. They just got into the chocolate.
They just want the food.
They ate all the chocolate, opened up the wraps. It's amazing. I would have liked to have actually seen how they open the wrappers up.
They are shockingly dexterous.
They are a pretty interesting animal.
Yeah.
And tough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have them, quite a few of them in our area back home. And when my wife first moved up, coming up from Florida, you don't see a whole lot of raccoons down there.
Right.
Because there's other things that eat them.
Like alligators?
But, yeah. Yeah. And Floridians. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
They eat a lot of raccoons?
Some of them will eat anything.
Really, eh?
Oh, it's funny fishing on the pier. Like, I bring my kids to fish on the pier, and we'll be catching bait. And if it's not, we're looking for like pilchards that are like 2.5, 3 inches long.
Right.
And sometimes they'll get like blue runners that are like 4 inches long. And that's not the bait we need at the time. So back in the water it goes, right? Because my kids are like me. It's like, we're not going to kill something needlessly.
Yeah.
Once some of the guys on the pier, once they clue into like, oh, they're bringing them back, they'll like inch closer and closer and closer. And every time the kids pull it, oh, can I have that? And the kids will just look at me and look at them and like, no. And just drop
them back. Why they want to eat them?
Yeah.
They're like 4
They're
or 5
not using
inches.
it for bait.
Huh.
Yeah. They're some of those guys are I mean, I get it. They're probably coming from a different mentality or my grandmother's always like, well, why'd you put all those fish back?
Right.
Every time we go perch fishing, I bring her some perch.
Yeah.
She goes, oh, this is what you caught, eh? I'm like, oh, no. And I've shown her some of the pictures of the bigger fish. Well, why don't you bring those home? And I'm like,
selective harvest.
I'm not going to keep every single fish I catch. Yeah. No, bring them over. Because, growing up, back when they grew up, being immigrants coming from Italy, food is food.
Right.
If I can go out and catch food, it means I don't have to go out and buy it.
Especially if you don't have a lot, right?
Right.
It's different now than what it was back in the day when.
Yeah.
If you don't have a lot, then yeah, if my fridge is empty, I'm going to keep more fish. I'm going to keep bigger fish, right? Whatever it takes to feed yourself and the family.
Yeah.
But
so I mean, I got it. And like I think when I first started fishing down there, I was under the mentality that I only need 1 or 2 fish, so everything else has to go back.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't be keeping all these fish. But now I think I'm a little more tolerant to the idea of harvesting.
Right. So that's interesting because we're in between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
Lake Erie is such a tremendous walleye fishery. And if I'm not mistaken, when they set a quota, they set no, I could be. I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this, but I could be wrong. The U.S. and the Canadian ministries get together for Lake Erie, and they set a quota for the walleye. 50% goes to the commercial fishery, 50% goes to the sports fishery. Sport fishery doesn't even come close to their quota on it.
Right.
Not even close. And I wish I should look this up and find the numbers on it.
Google it right here.
But there are so many fish in Lake Erie, so many walleye there, that I don't think people come in with the limit of walleye. It's not a big deal. Up in the Kawartha Lakes or the northern lakes here, I think you need to be a lot more selective in your harvesting.
The total allowable catch for walleye on Lake Erie, and this was back in 2021, was set to 14,533,000 fish.
Wow.
And that's an 18% increase. Sorry. That was in 2022, was set to 14,533,000,
right,
which was an 18% increase from the year before.
Right.
So that just tells you, well, the lake's doing good, which
it's doing. It's an amazing fishery. If in a situation like that, if you don't harvest fish, what's going to happen?
Oh, you're going to overpopulate. You're going to crash the population.
Yeah, bad things will happen.
Yeah,
right?
oh,
it's all about a healthy balance of nature, and we're part of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Lake Ontario's salmon fishing, it's a put and take fishery. I believe there is some natural reproduction, but for the most part, those fish are stocked.
Right.
And a 4-year life cycle, and the salmon are going to come up the rivers, spawn, and die.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. I think there's a very little population of natural reproduction, but for the most part, it's all stocked fish.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal to come back in with a cooler full of fish there. But if I'm going up into the northern lakes or the Kawartha Lakes, say, we're not too far from the Kawarthas here, so we use that as an example. Yeah, you got to be a lot more selective in your harvest if you want to ensure the fishery for future generations. That's really important.
Yeah, I think people get catch and release and conservation confused. Selective harvest, catch and release, conservation, like they all kind of work together. But like, there's nothing wrong with harvesting fish. I know a lot of people who rip on the ministry, and I mean, I think the ministry is maybe underfunded, or maybe just, I'm not sure. There's definitely something that needs to be done about the Ministry of Natural Resources as far as the way they're looking at things. But what they do is they look at, like this walleye thing here, what can the fishery handle as far as us taking from it?
Right.
Or what does it need to be, and so on and so on. And like these put and take fisheries, I've gone to places where it's like put and take brook trip.
Right.
And, you know, some guys get pissy when you keep them, and some guys get pissy when you put them back. And it's just like, they're here for a reason. You take them to eat them, or you just want to catch them and put them back. That's fine. Like I can go there and catch 30. I'm only allowed to keep 5.
Right.
But catching 30 is a blast.
That's,
you know, so it's like, I think there's a lack of respect amongst anglers and understanding amongst anglers. It goes back to education.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? We're very fortunate in this day and age with education, because, you know, if you want to educate yourself on something, there's so many ways to do it. Go online on Google. You know, you just look something up on your phone a second and go on Google, right? Whether it's angling or you know, selective harvest, catch and release, how to properly handle fish. It's all out there. You know, you can watch TV shows, you know, for learning how to catch fish.
And you watch TV shows on like YouTube now, or?
I watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on TV, you know, on whatever. There's fishing seminars, you know, in person, where you actually can ask questions. You know, all the sportsman shows we have. We have the Spring Fishing Boat Show, the Toronto Boat Show, the Sportsman Show. All these places you can go, listen to a fishing seminar, and ask the guy giving the seminar. You can ask questions. Oh, these guys are out there, and they're willing to share their knowledge with you. And they're more than happy to.
That's why they're there.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the guys that are there are there because. Most of them are there because they want to talk to you. They want to share. They want to meet. They want to
share their passion,
engage.
right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's the odd patch pirate and the odd egomaniac. But
you know what? No matter what industry you're in, you find something. You know,
100%.
There's a good, bad, and everything.
Yeah.
I'm fishing a tournament in a couple weeks.
For what?
Salmon.
You going to set the brawny?
Catch the fry.
Are you doing brownie? Catch the fry?
Yeah.
So explain that one to me.
So, out of Port Dalhousie there at the fishing club, St. Catherine's Game and Fish, they're involved in stocking salmon in Lake Ontario.
Okay.
So they have their pen project. So they have pens set up in the river there at Port Dalhousie. So, which is great because the fish are able to imprint.
Yeah.
They go, you know, and after they get to a certain size, sometime in May they actually release the fish. First they end up out in the lake, and 4 years later when they're mature, they come back. You know, because they've imprinted in the river there. Mm-hmm. So they're coming back, and they come back in, and it's called catch to fry. So it's just a play on words.
Fry as in fry fish.
As in the fry, because baby fish are called fry, right?
Yeah, after not as in what we do after we catch perch.
Yeah. That's not a fish fry, right? No, that's a good point. Because, you know, people listening,
that's what I thought.
People listening might not realize that, right?
Yes,
so it's called catch to fry. So it's all about the them helping stock, and then it's a tournament. After or Labor Day weekend or whatever.
Okay.
September 2nd, I think it is this year.
Yeah.
It's a Saturday.
I think that same weekend, I think I'm actually fishing one with my cousin out of Brawny.
There is one out of Brawny a week or two later, I think.
Is it?
I think.
Oh, yeah, I think it might be the 9th. I was supposed to be fishing one, but I might actually end up being up north.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so it's I don't fish a lot of tournaments because I'm busy with the charter and whatnot. So I enjoy fishing tournaments when I get the chance. It's that competitiveness, right? Mm-hmm. And funny, tournaments can be a real mind. When I'm out, it can be a real mind game on yourself. It's how you deal with it yourself. If you're having a tough day, you're thinking in the back of your head, "Oh, somebody's on them." You know, there's always somebody on the fish. If you're having a tough day, if you're having a good day, you're thinking, "Well, everybody's having a good day."
Yeah. So
what you got to do, what I found, is just go out and fish your game plan.
Yeah.
You know. I'm out there enough. I'm able to put together a game plan for a charter. So what's the difference when you're fishing a tournament?
Yeah.
Don't let the mind game, your own mind, screw you up.
You're not fishing against other people. You're fishing yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah. And
you're weighing in against other people, but.
Yeah.
The fishing is against you.
Yep. And the cool thing about fishing a tournament like that, it's a 3-fish box. You know, there'll be guys that are consistently in the top of the field. But on any given day, anybody can win, especially salmon fishing, because, you know, you could come in with 60 pounds, 3 fish all in the 20-pound range, which is pretty nice. But one guy could catch a big, like a 30-pound fish.
Mm-hmm.
I fished a tournament a few years ago. First salmon tournament I ever fished. I came in third. We had just over 48 pounds, I think. The guy that won it, they had a 35-pound fish in their box. They caught 2 fish all day, one about 25 and one about 35.
Jeez.
It was between 25 and 20 and 25 was their small fish. So I can't remember.
They were pushing like 60 pounds on 2 fish.
But that one fish was 35. They didn't even weigh it till they got in. They put it in the cooler, closed it up, looked at it a little bit, and knew it was a big fish.
Yeah.
But, anybody, now, the guy's a good fisherman. They deserve that fish. But on a small box like that, 2 or 3 fish, one fish can make such a huge difference.
Yeah.
And anybody can catch that fish, really.
I flip-flop on whether fishing is lucky or not. It's like, I don't think there's luck involved with fishing. I think there's luck involved in people who don't know what they're doing suddenly doing the right thing, if that makes any sense. So if I know, let's talk about bass fishing. Like, I know bass are going to hang out under a dock. So I'm going to go and target docks. But there's a guy who's just out for a day, drifting along, and all of a sudden comes up to a dock, and one of his casts goes by a dock, and he catches a big fish. Did he do that on purpose? No, it was just lucky that he put his bait there. Yeah. But that fish was going to be there no matter what. So it's not that he's lucky the fish ate, or
sometimes they are.
I don't think that it's a luck thing. Yeah. I don't think that it's lucky the way people think, oh, hey, we're lucky to catch that fish. Yeah, you're lucky to catch that fish because you had no idea what you're doing. Right. But I think there are guys that understand how to target them.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're going to catch them all the time.
No.
Right? But they understand how to target fish. And then nature has a way of always making us look foolish. So
right. But there's guys that are consistent.
Yes. Well, they're consistent for a reason, right? Which
they're not consistently lucky. They're consistent because they have the knowledge. They've earned that knowledge. They've learned it over the years.
Right.
And they've applied it.
Right. And then
and they've maintained it.
Yes. And then there's a guy that'll come along and just coincidentally do the same thing that guy's doing for an hour of the day and catch a good fish.
Right.
Well, that's where I think that's lucky.
Oh, everybody gets like, hey, we got a 30.36 pound salmon on my boat scale about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
There's other charter boats in the area. The guys fishing that area. Did we get lucky to catch that fish? I wasn't doing anything different. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, we got lucky.
Yeah, but you're in a spot where you're consistently catching fish.
Well, we had a good box that day. We had a whole bunch of fish.
Yeah.
But, the guy beside me could have had the same amount of fish as we did. Mm-hmm. But we got lucky and caught a real big one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, sure. Yes, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Right? Like, but again, it's one of those things where you're doing something that has consistently caught fish for you.
Right. That's true.
So, yes, you're lucky that fish was there at that moment.
Yeah.
And saw your bait, ate that bait. Just like the guy who's randomly drifting along and, bumps into
to catch one big fish, it could be luck. Mm-hmm. But people that can do it consistently, it's different. Then it's not luck.
Yeah, like my first musky with Lisa and John.
Yeah, you weren't even really fishing when
we were trying to move the boat into a back eddy, and I didn't realize my bait was in the water, and I was about to fall off, and in falling off, I jigged the rod up, and a muskie came and cut me in the boat.
And ate it, yeah.
So,
Here's another scenario. Last year, Craig and I were saying about the raccoons on the West Arm Lake Nipissing, right? Mm-hmm. We raised a big fish the last day we were there on the Sunday, about an hour before we were going to come home. Now, we read that fish, and that's one thing I taught about in seminars last year, was reading fish, reading a follow. Muskies are notorious for following a bait to the boat. We were casting towards the rock face. This fish came out from underneath the boat on an angle upwards, and he came in slow. So, first of all, the fish was deeper because he's coming on an angle. He was behind us in the deeper water because he's coming out from under the boat, not from towards the rock face where we were casting. Mm-hmm. And he came in slow. So, he was deeper. He was out that way. He's thinking about eating, but he's not really, really aggressive. He followed into a figure eight real slow and then kind of just sunk. Mm-hmm. So instead of pressuring that fish and taking him off and letting him know we're there, he knew something wasn't right. He didn't eat my bait for whatever reason. We left. We came back about a half hour, 45 minutes later, fished it differently. Well, instead of throwing that jerk bait, I was throwing a Frankensuck up towards the rock face. Well, then I put on a big Suzy sucker that Suick makes, and we cast it parallel to the rocks, but out farther, out deeper, and about 13, 14 feet of water. Because he came from that area, that bait I can work slow and I can work it deep. So kind of put everything together there, and we ended up catching the fish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it ended up being a 48-inch fish that was a real fat girth on it. Can't remember the girth now, but yeah, but you put all that stuff together. Were we lucky to catch that fish? Well, we took our knowledge. We might have been lucky, but we took our knowledge that we gained over the years and put it, you know, the fish told us the story.
Yes.
So, yeah, if you're a musky fisherman and you get a follow, that fish, you may not catch that fish right away, but he's telling you a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's up
and if
to
he's
you.
following, it means he's probably catchable.
Most of the time, but
Yeah.
you just have to take those pieces and put it together and figure out how to catch that fish afterwards.
So how long did it take you to put all that together?
That day,
Yeah.
well, so I said to Craig, so we're going to come back here in about half an hour. We're going to fish it different.
Yeah.
And so we're going to fish it low and slow. But that's years of experience, right?
Right.
You know, I can't say I've gone back and caught a lot of fish after I've seen them, but that one we sure did.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure it was the same fish. And it's a spot that we talk about burning spots or whatever. It's a spot that we've seen somebody else fishing before. They were trolling back and forth across that area.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, we've never fished on that body of water before. So we thought, let's go check it out. There must be a reason that guy keeps going back and forth there.
Right.
And then a couple of days later, we actually fished that area. We'd fished up a little farther above it before that, but we actually moved down and just to check it out. That fish, could you got him trolling? Maybe, but I'd rather catch him casting. You can present your bait as there's so many different variables when you're casting.
Yeah.
You know, the action you can put on your bait, you can, you know, fast or slow or however you want to work it.
Mm-hmm.
For trolling, yeah, you can troll fast, you can troll slow, but you can't work that bait the same as you can casting to get exactly what you want out of it.
Yeah. Trolling's lunchtime to me.
Yeah, that we do a lot of trolling when we eat lunch.
Yeah.
If I'm musky fishing.
Right.
You know, I've caught some real good fish trolling, musky fishing.
Yeah.
I prefer to cast.
Yeah.
I don't care if you troll.
There's feedback.
Yeah. I don't care if you troll or if you cast, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's always that debate online about trollers or casting and all this kind of stuff. As long as you're out there enjoying yourself, who cares?
How many of the trollers are guys that fish places like St. Clair? That are pro trolling?
Yeah,
Our St. Clair guys.
Most of the charter boats on St. Clair are trollers.
I don't think, are there a lot of casting guys on St. Clair?
Yeah.
A lot of casting guys, or just
For charter, well, there's charter boats and there's guides on St. Clair, I would say. The guides are more the casting, and the charter boats are all trolling.
Yeah.
You know, there's boats set up kind of like my boat on Lake Ontario, and they're bigger boats, and you're not going to cast out of them.
Right.
You know, it's a trolling game only for those guys. But there's other guys that are in, you know, casting boats that do quite well out there.
Right.
Yeah,
I've always known St. Clair as a trolling fishery.
Actually, there's guys out there that do very well casting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you can cover a lot of water trolling out there, that's for sure.
Yeah. And it's just this big fish bowl. And
yeah, and there's little things. I've only fished a little bit, but in the summertime, there is dirty water, current breaks or whatever, places to key on. There are some weed beds.
Yeah.
And guys that fish a lot.
2 rock piles in the whole lake. And,
guys that got it figured out do quite well there, right?
Yeah.
And even in the fall, of course, you have your migration of shad coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And even though muskie don't feed us, there's a big misconception about muskies putting on the feed bag in the fall. And I've heard a lot of experienced muskie people put that on, use that term as well. But the fact is, they actually feed less in the fall. They still eat, obviously, but they eat less. They're heaviest that time of year because of egg production.
Mm-hmm.
They're cold-blooded.
Yeah.
So in the summertime, and I learned this from fishing walleye, actually. If you clean a walleye in the summertime, very rarely will you ever see anything in its stomach. It's not because they're not eating. It's because they're cold-blooded.
Digesting it.
And everything in that warm water, everything digests so quickly. In the fall, if I catch walleye in the fall or in the spring, it's not uncommon to see stuff in their stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So the muskies are the same way. They have to eat more in the summertime because everything digests so quickly. That's
the metabolism is just that much faster.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why you'll catch fish on real fast-moving baits and stuff like that in the summer. You can trigger a strike with speed in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
In the fall, they still have to eat, obviously. But those big fish, a lot of those big fish, whether it's St. Clair, Georgian Bay, out here Buffalo Harbor on Lake Erie, those fish are migrating into areas where they're actually more catchable. So there's a lot of big muskie in Lake Erie. But they're out in the middle of the lake somewhere right now chasing bait fish. So it's hard to target them.
Mm-hmm.
In the fall when they come in back into the Niagara River and to Buffalo Harbor, well, all of a sudden you have a big pile of fish there, a good number of fish you can target. So it's not that they're putting on the feed bag that time of year. Those big fish are just more accessible.
Yeah, they're just saying that those big fish are out on the main lake. We really struggled yesterday on Lake Muskoka. It was the first time I fished it, and the guy I was with, it was the first time he fished it as well. I was helping him pre-fish for a tournament, and we went and we fished what we would normally fish for smallies. And for some reason, he just wasn't into going to look at those deep shoals. And then we later found out that that's exactly what we should have done.
Right.
Was go look at those deep shoals out in the middle of nowhere. But thinking about, because what the bass out there are doing is out there chasing bait fish around, thinking with the live scope and 360 and all that, going out onto Erie and trying to target those big muskie in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it
might be interesting.
I think it could be like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
But at the same time, guys do get a walleye fishing out here, and they get the outland bass fishing out in Lake Erie as well.
Yeah.
So it's not that they're not there. It's just, it's such a big body of water, and they're not really set up on structure.
Yeah.
Like if you
what are the walleye doing out there? Are they set up on structure, or are they chasing bait around?
There's two different fisheries out there for walleye. There's the inshore, I call it the inshore fishery, where you're running 15 to 10 to 20 feet down, maybe 30 feet down, fishing like 40 feet of water.
Yeah.
Around the Tecumseh Reef, some of the points out there, the structure on the points out there. And then there's the migratory fish.
Yeah.
So you have a deep water fishery and a shallow water fishery. The muskie, they could be either one. I know, guys, that there's been a few big fish caught, muskies caught in the last 2 years out here by walleye guys. But it's one, you could fish all your life and never get one.
Yeah.
Or you could get two in 1 year.
Yeah, I'm just
water.
thinking if you were out there, because a lot of these guys I don't think are out there scanning the way the bass guys scan. Have you seen the way those guys fish with the live scope?
A little bit. I actually have a buddy that's got it on his boat down at Port Dalhousie there.
For salmon?
Yeah, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. But imagine doing that for muskie where you're not making a cast, you're not doing anything. You're putting along, scanning until you see that pot of bait fish, and then you scan that pot of bait fish till you see the muskie. You might not cast all day.
You might not even see a fish all year.
I don't know. Because the way we're looking now, we're not looking. We're bumping into them by accident.
Right.
It's one of those luck things, right?
Yeah.
But if we know that they're out there chasing bait and we can find the bait, we might be able to find.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too much about it.
I think you're thinking too much about it. It's such a big body of water to they're out there, obviously.
Yeah,
and I think you could target them. You'd have to put your time in and learn it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the biggest
thing.
thing.
Think about the way guys are targeting those big smallies on Champlain. They're not casting. They're just looking down, staring at their live scope, panning it around until they find the bait, and they push into that bait pod till they find those big smallies around that bait, and then they cast.
Right.
They might make 15 casts a day. They're coming in with 20 pounds.
Yeah. I guess you can't argue. To me, that's, I don't know. It's
like drop shot fishing.
I'm not, I would never discredit a way to fish.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's for me.
It's the way I feel about trolling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see that it works, and I'll do it. We've done it once when we were filming, so I had something else to do. And I'll go out maybe once a year with Ashley and Eric because they're just fun to hang out with. And really, whether we were at a bar or whether we were trolling, I would have just as much fun just because I'm hanging out with them, right? The trolling is a side bonus to it.
Yeah.
If you want to call it a bonus. But,
well, you're not a troller.
No, I'm not. Not at all.
You know what? I troll all year out here for salmon. Mm-hmm. It's the way to target them out here, obviously.
Yeah.
If I'm musky fishing, I'd rather be casting.
Yeah.
100%. Or if I'm walleye fishing up at the Kawarthas, I'd rather be casting.
Yeah. Well, and also, with charters, you don't necessarily know the skill level of the person that you're fishing with.
Well, it's the same when you have people come out musky fishing, right?
Yeah.
When I have clients musky fishing, every day's a new adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's where you, as a guide, that's where you come into play, teaching them.
Right.
Teaching them how to use a bait caster, how to retrieve a bait, how to cast farther, all that kind of stuff. What to watch for, what to look for. Yeah, you can't use that as an excuse to the people's skill level because that's where, as a guide, you need to come through.
Be able to adapt.
Adapt and teach them.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, you never know what their skill level is. So, trolling's a really easy way to get someone out and fishing and having fun and putting them on fish because you're doing most of the work.
Yeah. But, I had a lady come out years ago and she never used a bait caster before. She'd never been musky fishing before. And I spent a few minutes up in the front of the boat with her, teaching her how to use the bait caster and everything else, explaining how muskies, the first 10 feet of the cast, the last 10 feet of a cast are times you're likely to get hit, about a figure eight and everything else. I'm at the back. I get her sit up. She had her mom with her, going to show her mom how everything works. And about 5 minutes in, she had her first muskie on a figure eight. And she never ever used a bait caster before. Had never been musky fishing.
Yeah.
And I know how much, there's so many guys that have never caught a fish on a figure eight. They've never got a tiger muskie. And this lady, who had never used a bait caster before,
10 minutes into her career.
5 minutes into musky fishing, she gets her tiger muskie on a figure eight. As a guide, that's so rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, it's one of those, nature finds a way to make a fool out of you.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah. What have you taken away from guiding all this time?
What have I taken away from it?
Yeah. Like some things that you've learned or something that sticks with you.
Just enjoy it. Just go out there every day and have fun and enjoy it. Just it's better than going into a factory to work. Like, you know what? There's, as I said before, there's so many stresses with it. But what I've taken away from it is I'd rather be out there in the rain or in the sun or whatever the weather's throwing at you than putting on a pair of work boots and going into a steel factory.
Yeah.
So make sure that my biggest thing on the boat is, yes, we need to catch fish. But the most important thing is people are safe and that they have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else will take care of itself.
Well, what about for you? Like, how has it changed your perspective on fishing or life?
Well, it's given me a great appreciation for not having to go into a steel mill. No, I'm serious. Like,
I can imagine.
And it's funny because even if I have a day off, like, you're not fishing. I'm not fishing 7 days a week, but I might be on the water for 4 or 5 days or whatever, and then I get the next day off, and it's like, oh, hey, Craig, what are you doing tonight? Want to hit the river for a few hours?
Yeah.
It hasn't taken away my passion for fishing at all, even though I'm on the water. Very fortunate to be on the water a lot more than most people.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't taken that passion away because, as I said, I get a day off, and I've hit Lake Erie by myself some days just to go walleye fishing or whatever. In those days, I do stuff that I wouldn't normally do. Like I'll fish different areas, try to learn something out there.
Mm-hmm.
When you're fishing with people, you go to your go-to things all the time, right? Yeah, you do change things up or you try different things. But when I fish by myself, it's like, okay, well, you know what? Let's check this out. Let's check this area out. Check this technique out or whatever. So try to expand on some things. But I know I'm getting off topic there, but what have I taken away from it other than...
Let me... Okay, then let's change the question here, though.
Yeah, change the question, Dan.
You kind of went to an interesting spot there. In filming the show, we've done a few different things. Mm-hmm. Outside of your wheelhouse, what has been the most interesting to you or the most rewarding? So I know we did ice fishing a few times.
Yeah.
We did fly fishing. It's become an annual trip to the Otto River Muskie Factory, which Lisa's already can't wait to see you in the fall. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I got that email from John the other day, and we're going to stay at his place. And one of the cool things there was hooking into that sturgeon. I know we're getting off topic again. I've never caught a sturgeon before. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. It wasn't in waters where we could pull it out and take photos of it. So fortunately you had the cameras rolling, got the hooks out, took it on a net right back into the water because there's no season for it in Ontario. On the Quebec side, it's different. There is a season for it. So
I think the coolest part about that, for me at least, was that we were in deep water. You were throwing a suic. I was not down deep, and everyone always, sturgeon are
well,
deep
actually,
fish.
We were casting up into shallow water. It's probably only 4 or 5 feet.
Oh, well, that kind of ruins
all
that for me.
I could take it. I know exactly where we were when we got that fish.
Yeah.
So
you remember your first sturgeon? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, I remember my first sturgeon too. Yeah, yeah. Hey, I got a question for you. I've never had a bucket list.
Okay.
So if somebody said, "Oh, what fish is on your bucket list?" I don't have a bucket list, but for me it'd be a mahi-mahi.
Okay.
I've never caught one. What would yours be?
Ooh. I have different bucket lists. So I have like one for Canada.
Yeah.
I want to do it's cutthroat trout and bull trout or Dolly Varden.
Right.
And then North America mahi are on it. But also like really big tarpon. I've caught tarpon up to like 15, 20 pounds.
Right.
But I want to get those like beasts that you know,
like a Boca Grande or whatever.
Yeah, but not. You can go down in the Keys and you can target them.
Right.
There's a hatch, the Paolo worm hatch, so you can catch them on flies.
Okay.
So I think it'd be cool to catch like a 150-pound tarpon on a fly and then promptly call my chiropractor.
Yeah. I mentioned, what did I say? Boca
Grande?
Yeah, because I've seen that on TV years ago.
Yeah. That show where the guy just yelled at you the whole time?
Yeah.
I used to love that show, but every time he was on, I just felt like I was being assaulted by information. Yeah. I mean, you know, peacocks in the Amazon. There's a lot. It's a very long list.
Right.
Yeah. I've had shots at a few of those. Palomino trout are another one, which I don't know if you've ever seen those.
Nope.
So they're rainbow trout, but they're like an albino strain.
Oh, okay.
So they're kind of like all white or golden white, like a pale golden color, and they have a bright red stripe down it. And they're really not that far. So it's just I'm just being lazy about it.
Right.
But it's Pennsylvania, West Virginia.
Okay, West Virginia. I had customers from West Virginia. Actually, I did a post online the other day. I said customer, whatever. One of the cool things about guiding and running the charter boat is the friendships you make with people. The guy I know from Sudbury was down in West Virginia with his son's baseball. Met a fella, a retired gentleman, down watching baseball games. And they started talking fishing, and he gave my name as a guide. Had him up in the Kawartha Lakes a few years ago. And then, of course, last few years, people couldn't really travel. Now he can travel again. He came down salmon fishing this year. Yes, he came down to fish and that, but it's more it's the friendships that you make with people, which are really cool. I have guys that come out every year, 2 or 3 trips a year, and it's like hanging out with friends in the boat. Yeah. You know, and the kids, they're joking around and everything else. Him and his friends are always on each other pretty hard on each other. It's just a lot of fun.
I think that's the industry in general, for the most part. I mean, we're out here living our passion. You know, we're even at guys who aren't doing this full time. When we're doing it, it's something we absolutely love and enjoy. And I think that comes out. And I think you can build a lot of great friendships if you can keep your ego aside. Yeah, but you know, some of my best friends in the industry are from the industry. Right. You know, I just think it's just great that it works that way.
If I had a friend that didn't fish, I don't know what we talk about.
Disdain for the Maple Leafs?
Yeah, well, you know, everybody's got to hate on Leafs every now and then.
But you guys do,
but that's just easy.
I don't know. We'll see. This year's the year.
Now I'm going to get hate mail from Leaf fans, but that's okay.
What are you talking about? They don't know how to do hate mail. They're just going to whine online. Come on. Now I'm going to get hate mail from the Maple Leafs as a Leafs fan. Yeah. Oh, man.
That is fun to look online, though, and see all that stuff in the playoffs when the Leafs are losing. Oh, I enjoy sending that stuff out to you.
Oh, yeah. No, I enjoy it very, very much. I am a Leafs fan. I'm definitely a Leafs fan.
I'm not.
But I haven't noticed that. But I'm also a realist, and I love hockey. And it's funny because, like, not a whole lot of the family is big into hockey. Right. So they're just kind of like, they look weird at us, but I love hockey. Just seeing some of the stuff that happens, I'm just like, why? This doesn't make any sense. And then, you know, marrying my wife who's from Florida, who they weren't into hockey until they met me.
Right.
And we'd go to games and she's like, Daniel, calm down. I'm like, no, it's fine. Don't worry. I'm like, I'm calm. That's annoying. Like, she's like, I thought you were a Leafs fan. I'm like, I am. She goes, well, why are you yelling at the team? I'm like, because they're playing bad.
Yeah, you'd probably use your voice, eh? You got to yell at them a lot. But it's funny because people say, oh, you hate the Leafs so much. Or don't like the Leafs. Who's your favorite team? I said, well, I really don't have a favorite team, but I would like to see Chicago do well, and I'd like to see Phoenix do well. I said, because my nephew works for the Phoenix Coyotes as a skills development coach. And then a fellow, Derek King, I grew up playing hockey with, is assistant coach in Chicago. Oh. So I'd like to see them do well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But unfortunately, the last few years, those teams have not been very high in the standings. But that's going to change. Things
change.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm on record as saying I like to see those teams do well. So when they start doing better this year, you can't accuse me of being a bandwagon jumper.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see Phoenix do well. I'm just looking at the history of that team and how things go down there. I kind of feel like they're run a little bit the way the Leafs are, minus the financial gain.
Minus the annoying fan base.
I mean, they need a fan base to have an annoying fan base.
Well, hopefully they get their arena built there and everything works out good.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Chicago's just one of those teams that teams age. They got to rebuild.
Oh, yeah. Well, they were on a real high for a few years, right?
Yeah.
It's a cycle. But, yeah, some teams seem to be able to stay at the top and some teams to be able to stay at the bottom.
Yeah, we'll see. I think Boston's not going to do so great this year.
They'll be all right.
They've had a lot of people retire.
I'm not a big Boston fan, but they'll be all right.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not saying they're going to win the Stanley Cup, but
no.
They'll definitely be competitive.
You think this will be competitive?
I think
so.
Yeah,
a lot of people retire this year. A lot of key.
Yeah. Yeah, the new guys coming in.
Yeah.
They'll find a way.
Yeah.
Good coaching, which is a huge thing.
Yeah, they're a thorn in Toronto's side, so I'm sure they'll find a way. It's all about making Toronto look bad, right? So,
there you go.
Yeah. Why'd you end up moving out to Dunnville? I know that's played a big role in the way you fish and what you do, being right close to the Grand and all that.
Yeah, well, so a few years back, we were living in Smithville. It's kind of a house that we figured we'd probably, good chance we'd live in forever. It was, really liked the place there. And, starting to become empty nesters. It was a little bit big maybe for what we needed. Mm-hmm. We didn't need 4 bathrooms. It's funny you mentioned the Grand River. I was out ice fishing on the Grand River one evening. It was a Wednesday, February 3rd. And Heather was skating on a pond and had a bit of not a bit of an accident. She fell and hit the back of her head. Mm-hmm. So, it's been just over 2 years. She's, it's incredible the progress she's made from that. But it's everything, she's worked really hard to make herself mm-hmm. better. But with her not working and medical expenses and that, it was part of, we downsized for a number of reasons. A lot easier, this is a lot smaller house. It's a lot easier to keep up. Cut her mortgage rate in half, which was nice. And I got a big 20 by 20 garage out there. Or as Heather likes to say, the tackle shop. So that was, that had a lot to do with us moving out here.
Mm-hmm. Knowing you guys and relationship that we've developed over the years and all that, I've seen how hard that she's worked and how hard you've worked to help her recover for that. And it really is incredible. Like, I got to say, you guys are probably 2 of the most positive people I know, even through some of the hardships you've gone through all this.
But. Well, it was, when I look back at it, like, she was probably a month just in the bedroom and not being able to do anything, like in the dark. Mm-hmm. One of the funny things is, I look back, it's kind of funny now. The doctor said to her, she couldn't watch TV. So what we did was put a blanket over her so there's no light from it. Mm-hmm. The doctor said, have something on that that you can follow around on, that you can follow mm-hmm. without actually thinking too much. So it was like 24 hours of Schitt's Creek. Every freaking show for every season in its entirety.
Yeah.
I hate that music. The music for that show, it was good at one time. Now I just heard it too much. But I knew she was starting to feel better when I could hear laughter coming from the bedroom.
Nice.
And I don't know if you can hear in the background there. I think the dog's over there. I can hear her snoring every now and then. It's funny because we have a bulldog. She's 10 and a half now.
Lily.
I take her for a walk. She wouldn't leave Heather's side for the whole time, pretty much. I'd take her for a walk. We'd go down the road. She'd do her business, and she would this dog does not run for anything. She'd almost run back home as soon as she did her business, and in the house, up the stairs, right back onto the bed with Heather. Just, it's incredible the therapy that a dog can give somebody, mm-hmm. how a dog keys in on knowing something's not right and what they can do for a person. But there's also some pretty incredible fishing people in the fishing industry that you really find out who your friends are. Mm-hmm. And there's Deb Thompson and Mike and Dana from Handlebars. Mm-hmm. They put together a couple auctions, whatever. Just absolutely means the world to us. That everything came out of our pocket. Mm-hmm. So them helping out in that way was absolutely means the world to us. And incredible people.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
I don't deal with them a whole lot throughout the year, but around showtime we're always together, and it's like not a beat is we haven't skipped a beat.
Right.
They're just those kind of people where they're just always warm and welcoming. And
they're incredible. Mike makes great baits. Mm-hmm. They both make the baits, I think. Yeah. Mike and Dana, but they make great bait. But even more importantly, they're tremendous people. Mm-hmm. And Deb Thompson, who works with Big Rock, just people we met through the industry that she's a great person too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, said with the industry, the kind of friendships that you develop, as long as people can put their egos aside, I think when you're sharing a passion like this, you get to know the person's real.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, Heather's the first one to she's the very first one to help anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've seen no acts of kindness out of her before, where you know, somebody had online where there was a lady in not too far from here, and she left an abusive relationship. Didn't have much. She was in a house somewhere that she was renting, and she needed some bedding and all this kind of stuff. And so Heather tells me, and she loads up the truck, or we load up the truck. This is all her, not me. This is all Heather. Takes a whole bunch of stuff down there. We take it down, take it into the house. You know, she talks to the lady in that, discovers that they didn't have a mattress for the one bed. We come home and she goes, you know what? We got that mattress in the spare room downstairs. We don't need it right now. We can afford another one. Throw it in the truck, take some other stuff down, goes down. And that's, you know, that's the kind of person Heather is, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to help anybody and stuff like that. So she's the last one that's looking to accept help. You know? So it's hard for her to actually accept help and somebody, but for those people to come through like that, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad she's doing better. And
yeah. Oh yeah. You know, and now most people wouldn't need, you know, it's been 2 years. I can still tell at times, but most people can't.
Yeah.
You know, but every day's, you know, it's her positive attitude that, you know, I hate to think if she was a lazy person or didn't have that inner strength and drive,
mm-hmm.
where she would have been. Because when she hit her head there, they said, I think concussions only go up to about a grade 3.
Mm-hmm.
They said it would have been like a 14.
What?
If it graded that high.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
But, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you guys are fairly back to normal. And
Oh, there's nothing normal here.
yeah, well, that's why I said fairly back to normal. Normal is a relative term,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, where do you get all that inspiration for all those Instagram posts every time Heather leaves?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, well, I put it on Facebook and it shares it to Instagram, I guess.
Okay,
But,
okay.
So it's, what is it, fish_envy? The
Yeah.
letters envy on Instagram, if you go back. You know, I think I have a pretty good sense of humor. And I like to
Not the face like that, you need to.
Yeah. I like to make people laugh. So for those who haven't seen it, if you go on my Instagram page and scroll back a ways, when she was away with her sisters and that a while back, and then she was in Nova Scotia with family, I just make up these stories. But when she's away, you know, something about the Keurig, for example, how I woke up in the morning and there was no water in it, and I didn't realize it didn't fill itself, and there was no coffee pods there.
Yeah. Well,
It gets into great detail, though.
One of my favorites, and I actually got a phone call from Megan, and she's my wife, Megan, and she's laughing like crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I helped with that one. Was you call me one morning and you're like, how hard is it for you to Photoshop someone bald?
Oh.
And I'm just like,
I was on Lake Erie when I was out walleye fishing by myself. Yeah. Had the day off.
And I'm like, probably fairly easy depending on the photo, right? And you send me a photo. How about this one? I'm like, yeah, give me a couple minutes. And
yeah, I just took that out in the boat.
Yeah. And so we just made you bald. I'm pretty sure actually I might have used Jeff Bezos as the bald head.
Oh yeah,
but
it was really good.
Yeah.
So what I did was I said, you know, Heather away for, you know, day 3 of Heather being away or whatever, and I was having a shower and ran out of shampoo, and you know, without my glasses or contacts in, I went to the cupboard to get another bottle and didn't realize I grabbed a bottle of Nair, I think it was.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then Dan had photoshopped the bald head on me, and it was pretty realistic. It was good.
Yeah.
That was funny. Or the washing machine, stuff like that.
That first series that you did was just killing me. Like I kept.
There's a lot of pressure on that because now when she goes away, if she's not home for a few days, people are expecting it.
Yeah.
I actually had a lady in town here calling me up and saying, "Oh, for God's sakes, just bring your laundry over here." But yeah, so yeah, if you go on Instagram, it's fish envy or fish_envy on Instagram, and you can look back on those and have yourself a good laugh.
Yeah, most of the stuff there's good for a good laugh. There's not a whole lot of fish.
Yeah. There might be a little bit of fishing stuff on there.
It's quite a lot of good fishing stuff and some interesting food stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we like to cook. Actually, the other night we had bacon wrapped walleye, sweet potatoes and roasted peppers all on the barbecue.
Nice.
That was good. Very colorful as well as tasty.
Yeah.
So
colorful.
Very colorful. Well, the peppers.
Oh, like different color. Okay.
Yeah, you had the orange potatoes. You had the yellow and red peppers, and then the red and white and the bacon and the walleye.
I'm not sure why when you said colorful in my mind,
Well, you got to eat with your eyes first, Dan.
Yeah, but in my mind, I'm thinking like colorful as in like, colorful language, not like, like, that took me a second.
Yeah.
You got me thinking about food and everything's just.
Yeah, we actually I did some smoked salmon the other day, candied salmon.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got the recipe off Facebook from James Meager off what he does for smoked salmon or candied salmon. It's really, really good. I don't know James, but I have him on Facebook, and that recipe is top notch.
Yeah. You have any of that left?
Yeah, I'll send you home with a pack.
Pack, which opens them up now. What are you drinking there, Brett?
Grape soda.
Grape soda.
Grape knee-high.
Huh?
Grape knee-high. You never watched MASH as a kid?
How old do you think I am?
Well, how old are you or how old do you look?
Jesus. I was talking to someone about that. They made a comment and they're like, I love the way how the gray's coming in and all that and so on and so on. And I'm like, I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not. I'm like, the fuck? Like, and then she looks at me and goes, no. Like, everyone on social media looks all fake, and like even people who go and they try to cover all that up. She's like,
I gave up on that.
She goes, I think it's great because it's just, you got to earn that. Like, it shows the experience. You still try to like make yourself look presentable.
Yeah.
But you're not covering up the fact that you're aging. Aging is it's a
blessing.
A blessing, and it's a privilege to be able to do that. Right. And like, as she's saying this, I'm just thinking, I didn't realize it, but I 100% agree with what you're saying. Like, all right. I mean, I think that's a good place to jump off here. We've been talking for quite a while.
Already.
Appreciate you
my
sitting
pleasure.
down and talking. And
yeah, well, I can't, with the wind and the rain and everything today, I'm stuck inside. So
yeah. Well, one advantage of talking to someone quite often is that we can work our schedules out to make this
work. I think this is our third attempt to get together for this.
Yeah, it is.
You're going to come down yesterday, and then I had a trip, and the other day I ended up with another trip, and you're going to come down. So
that's all right. It worked out. I'm sure we'll do this again in the future.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to the feedback from the tens of listeners.
Yeah, that'll be great. It'll be the cumulation of everyone who actually looks at your posts and my posts. So
yeah,
it'll be great. Again, thank you for doing the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
And if people need to find you, get a hold of you, or want to send some hate mail, how do they do that?
Yeah, if you're a Leaf fan, you want to send your hate mail, it's just I'm pretty easy guy to get a hold of. Brent Bochek, you can Google that, and a lot of things will come up. All fishing stuff, pretty much.
Yeah, just keep safe search on.
Yeah. Emails fishenvy@live.ca.
Okay.
So FISHNV@live.ca. Social media. Brent Bochek on social media. Setting the Hook with Brent Bochek on YouTube.
Settingthehook.tv.
YouTube.
Oh. Yeah.
On YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah. So, we're going to have some new content coming out there. We're going to get things rolling again with that. Fishenvy.ca is the website for my fishing stuff.
Cool.
So, appreciate it, Dan. It's been fun doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Haven't seen you in a while, so it's good to get together again.
Yeah, it has actually been pretty weird. And some of my friends are like, how's Brent doing? And I'm like,
who?
I don't know. Like,
I haven't seen him lately.
We've kept in touch, but it's not like, before it was a couple times a week we'd be together. So
yeah, well, usually it's stupid memes or whatever you send online or video clips.
We don't need to tell people what we do when we're in the washroom, Brent. Like,
you'll edit that part out.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
The best is I'll get, a whole bunch of my friends do that. And I know, I'll get a cluster from Nico or a cluster of memes from you, and I'm just like, I know what he's doing now.
No, it's usually when I'm in the evening when I hit the couch after a long day on the water. Those afternoon naps are the best. So
yeah.
Oh, I had one of those yesterday. It's up at 4:00 on the water at 6, off at noon. Got home around 2. And I'd been up early the day before. Hit the couch with the dog. Dog laid on the couch by my feet there, and it's like, just crashed for about an hour. It was great.
That just messes me up every time I do it.
Yeah, usually if you nap too much, you have trouble sleeping at night. But no, that was awesome.
I think it's different if you're out in the sun though.
Yeah, out in the weather.
Like just that extra vitamin D and.
Are you saying I'm looking weathered?
No.
Oh.
No, not at all. Alrighty. Well, we're gonna jump out here. So thanks a lot.
Okay, Dan.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, I think I'm gonna go have a nap.
Yeah. Yeah, me too, on the drive home.
Thanks for listening to the Live to Fish podcast. Want some more Live to Fish? Head over to livetofish.ca to get more podcasts, stories, videos, and links to all our social feeds.